Welcome back to this week's property update. I know I say this often, but this time it genuinely feels like one of the most intense and important weeks we've seen in a long while. There's a lot happening, and it's all moving quickly. The biggest headline, without a doubt, is that the Renters' Rights Act has officially come into effect. This is a major shift in the property world, something that hasn't happened on this scale for decades. It's going to affect both tenants and landlords, and in my view, it's likely to push rents higher over time. We'll break that down in detail today. Alongside that, we've got updates from the Bank of England, changes at the Federal Reserve, discussions around rent freezes, and even news about crisis stepping into the rental market. So there's plenty to cover. Before we get into all of that, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. Join the growing community that stays informed about house prices, interest rates, and property investment insights. And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel reach more people and keeps this content going. Right, let's get into it. Starting with Airbnb, there's been a significant crackdown in London. As you may know, short-term lets are limited to 90 days per year, but many people have been bypassing that rule. Authorities are now taking this much more seriously. To give you an idea, around 400 cases were investigated last year. But this year that number has jumped to 2,700. That's a huge increase, so if you're operating in that space, it's more important than ever to stay compliant. Otherwise, you could find yourself dealing with the council, and that's not a situation anyone wants. Now moving on to something a bit different: crisis. Unlike some other housing organizations that tend to criticize landlords, Crisis is taking a more practical approach. They've announced plans to become a not-for-profit landlord and purchase around 100 properties, split between London and Newcastle. The goal is to help tackle homelessness and provide stable housing. It's a positive move, and I think it's fair to give them a chance and see how they perform once they're actually operating as landlords themselves. There has been some feedback already. Someone mentioned that Crisis-owned properties in London were priced higher than expected, but we'll have to see how things develop over time. Next up, mortgage rates. Barclays has dropped rates to 3.96%, which is notable because it brings us below the 4% mark. However, there's a condition. You need to be a Premier customer to access that rate. Even so, this is an important signal to the market. Other lenders are likely to respond because they won't want to lose business, especially in a quieter market where attracting borrowers is key. We're starting to see rates ease slightly after earlier overreactions in the market, so this could be the beginning of a broader trend. Looking at the US, the Federal Reserve decided to hold rates at 3.5%. Jerome Powell has now stepped down after several years as chair, and his final remarks included concerns about rising inflation, unemployment, and the impact of tariffs and oil prices. He suggested that rate cuts might not happen soon. However, his replacement, Kevin Walsh, appears to have a different perspective. He's more focused on economic growth and reducing government debt, and he's indicated that he may support lowering rates. With his first meeting coming up next month, it will be interesting to see how his approach shapes policy. If US rates do fall significantly, it could influence decisions in the UK as well. Speaking of the UK, there's also been talk about potential rent freezes. This seems to be tied to upcoming local elections, where the current government may be looking to gain support. Freezing rents for a year has been discussed, but it's uncertain whether this will actually happen. At this stage, it appears more like a proposal than a confirmed policy. On the energy side, there's been discussion around solar panels for tenants. Some people misunderstood this initially, thinking tenants would be installing expensive full systems. That's not the case. The focus is on smaller plug-in solar units, something already popular in countries like Germany. These systems cost between £100 and £400 and could save around £100 per year on energy bills. Over time, that's a reasonable return and could help ease some of the pressure around energy efficiency requirements. Now back to the Bank of England. They've kept interest rates at 3.75%, which was widely expected. This stability has encouraged lenders like Barclays to start reducing their rates. However, there are still concerns. The bank outlined scenarios where inflation could rise to 6.5% if oil prices remain high, around $130 per barrel. If that happens, they've indicated that rates could increase multiple times, potentially reaching 5% again. That's something everyone will be watching closely. Finally, let's talk about the biggest development of the week, the Renters' Rights Act itself. As of May 1st, it's now officially in force. This introduces several important changes. Landlords are now required to provide tenants with a specific information document outlining their rights. This must be done by the end of the month, and tenants need to confirm they've received it. Interestingly, many landlords are still unaware of this requirement, which could lead to issues. The document covers key changes, such as the removal of Section 21 evictions, the move to rolling contracts, new processes for rent increases, and updated rules around pets and tenancy termination. For example, tenants now have more protection when it comes to rent disputes, and landlords must have valid reasons for refusing pets, rather than simply saying no. These changes aren't necessarily extreme, but they do require landlords to stay informed and adapt quickly. As we move forward, it will be very telling to see how many landlords issued Section 21 notices before the deadline. That number could be quite significant. So that's where we are. An incredibly active and important week in the property market. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, especially if you're a landlord and took action before these changes came in. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more updates, and check out the other content on the channel as well.